breaking tonight, the White House is offering political asylum, yes, political asylum, to refugees in Britain, to the likes of Graham Linehan and Lucy Connolly, the sorts of people who have been failed by our justice system. The Telegraph's Connor Stringer, a friend of the show, is reporting that the Trump administration is looking at welcoming free speech activists who have been prosecuted, in addition to the likes of those who speak out on migration, trans issues, and so on.
This important interruption is brought to you by ExpressVPN. Protect your money and your identity. Click the link in the description or scan the QR code here to get ExpressVPN right now and save up to 73% on annual plans today. Right, let's get back into it.
Well, who best to get the thoughts on this breaking story tonight than Lucy Connolly, herself imprisoned for 2.5 years for the Southport tweet that was. Lucy, great to see you. I must say, you're looking well after having spoken about you for so long during your torturous time in prison. It's just great to see you out in the open. First of all, how are you? How's life outside? Are you getting on okay?
Yeah, great, thank you. It's been interesting. But, you know, everyone's been really kind, actually. And, you know, I've met some great people along the way. But we're doing okay, considering.
Good. I'm glad to hear. Lucy, let me ask you about this breaking story tonight in the Telegraph. So the Trump administration, this side of the pond, they are reportedly soon planning to be opening their doors, welcoming the likes of political asylum seekers, potentially like yourself, who they feel have been persecuted in the UK for free speech issues, speaking out about migration and so on. Is this something you'd consider? Would you consider coming to the US, Lucy, as a political refugee?
It's something that we talk about daily in this house, actually, leaving the country. Even before this happened to me, you know, we could see the way things were going. I think it's been going this way since COVID, and it's been a massive slippery slope. But there's always this question of, well, where do you go? Isn't it? You know, you can't. It's not as easy to just pack up your belongings and just go. We still have to work. We still have to learn, earn a living. We're a lot more fortunate than some that, you know, we've got a house we can sell and a little bit of money in the bank and stuff. But it's not so easy just to pack your backpack and leave, is it? You can't just do that, especially when you've got children and commitments here. But yeah, it's something we talk about all of the time. And I'm kind of in the mindset that I would actually go tomorrow, because this just isn't the country currently that I would, and the future that I wish on my children right now. But my husband's very much of the no, we need to stay and fight type attitude. So it's like a bit of a different opinion in this house.
Yeah, that's what I hear all the time. You hear of people, especially wealthy people, going to the likes of the UAE, Dubai for tax reasons and so on. You know, the millionaires leaving because the Chancellor's going to target them for massive tax hikes and so on. But then, yeah, the argument is, Lucy, as you said, you need to stay and fight for your country. So you would go tomorrow, right? If the Trump administration came to you and said, Lucy, we'll help you come over here, we'll help you set up and, you know, get you on your feet in the US, you'd go, but your husband wouldn't, right?
It's not that he wouldn't, it's just that I'm just a bit, I've had enough now, to be quite frank. I don't know whether we can get ourselves out of this mess. I'd love to think that we can, and you know, as you probably noticed, I'm the first one to put my 2 pence in, but I just don't know if we can come back from this. I really don't.
What about a change of government, Lucy? Because of course it may not be reform, but Reform are leading all the polls. You know, Labour, as far as the polls go, they're not doing very well. And if there was an election tomorrow, they'd most certainly lose. So, would you not be prepared to hold out to see who may take the reins next time round? Is there any faith or hope that things can get better?
Definitely. Like, but can we go another 4 years? Can the country really last that long with the current state of affairs? I'm honestly not sure that it can. What's going to happen in the next 4 years if things carry on the same as they are now?
Yeah, well, I've always argued that I think things need to get a little bit worse before we get some sort of mass awakening in the UK, and I don't know how that manifests, what that looks like. I don't know, the economy collapsing, I'm not sure, but I've always argued that we've got a little bit more to go before that transition happens. Can I ask you though, Lucy, Have you spoken to the administration here in the United States since you were released from prison? Have you had any contact,
No.
formally, informally?
No, not yet.
Nothing at all. Because I spoke to.
There were some plans that got postponed. You know, I don't want to say too much about that, but I know that, you know, the White House has spoken about me, and obviously I know that you did your interview with the lovely Charlie Kirk, and he was, you know, quite outraged about what was happening in this country and was going to go back and speak. And, you know, yeah, America are very, very proud of their First Amendment, aren't they? And I think they're kind of looking over here in horror right now, along with, you know, several other countries.
Yeah, which is ironic, really, because the whole concept of free speech was birthed in our great nation, and now we seem to be the ones lagging behind. I did, of course, as you mentioned, speak to Charlie Kirk in April, and he was outraged at your case. He said he'd spoken to Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State here in the United States. And yeah, I just wonder, so you've had no contact at all from Rubio or anything? I mean, were you offered the opportunity to maybe speak at some conferences here, CPAC or something?
Yeah, so originally, obviously, the problem was it was so near to my release date when I came out of prison. I didn't come out of prison until the 21st of August. And obviously, Nigel Farage was, shortly after that, went to the US to give his evidence to the US about how, you know, free speech is a bit of a dying breed a dying thing in this country. And he did invite me to come along, and they tried their best to get me there, but unfortunately, because of my conditions on my license, I cannot leave the country without permission of probation, and it would, you know, they'd want a fairly good reason. I think they jumped straight past probation and went to the, you know, right to the top, but it was a straight no. There's no way she's going.
Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. Do you? Can you tell me, Lucy? We sometimes on this channel and other channels, particularly as an example with the BBC scandal at the moment going on with Trump, we get accused, or I get accused, of talking Britain down for highlighting these issues, highlighting some of the problems we've got. Look, I love my country, but we highlight issues that I think we need to sort out in order to find, you know, get our mojo back, as Charlie Kirk would say, pull ourselves up from our bootstraps. Do you accept the premise that even tonight that maybe you're talking the country down? Britain is a great place, and you're talking the country down, as we get accused of.
No, not at all. On paper, Britain is a great place. And, you know, if you look at some of the laws and things in this country compared to other countries, on paper, it's supposed to be, you know, the place to live. There's a reason that everybody wants to come and live here. We're supposed to be an independent, sovereign, country that, you know, is a great place to live. But it's not about talking the country down. It's about wanting better for our children and wanting a better future for everybody, isn't it?
Yeah, indeed. And Lucy, just going back to something you said a second ago. You said that, correct me if I'm wrong, the Trump administration or somebody in the government here went to the top of the UK government, maybe the Home Secretary, to try and allow you to come to the UK despite your licence conditions. Can you just elaborate on that? What happened?
Yeah, I think that was Nigel Farage's team. Obviously, Nigel was really keen for me to go with him to America to give evidence on this. And as far as I'm aware, it was vetoed straight from the top. I mean, the original plan at the time was to go straight to David Lammy. I don't know the ins and outs of what was said and what happened. I just know that I got an answer back of, it's a hard no.
So you don't know who stopped it in the UK? I mean, was it David Lammy potentially?
Possibly, but that's I think, I don't know. I do know that they did go straight to the top. They bypassed probation and went, you know, to the government. And yeah, it came back as absolutely not.
So somebody from the UK government stopped you travelling to America to talk about your situation, just to clarify.
Yeah, they did. And it was quite amusing, really, because obviously I'd come out of prison. I didn't have a passport. It had expired. So I had to go back to Peterborough to get an emergency passport within like 24 hours. And I was saying to everybody, you know, that were trying to get me to America, they're just never going to let me. They're never going to let me, of all people, go to the US to tell them that, you know, my story and other people, you know, and the likes, don't forget it wasn't just me, and tell, you know, America how far we've fallen here with regards to free speech. It was always going to be a big ask for them to sign that off, and I never really expected them to, and they've just proven my point, haven't they?
Every time you're online, your money and your identity are at risk. Scams now make up nearly 40% of all crime in the UK. That's thousands of attacks every single day. In Britain, someone has their identity stolen every 2 minutes, leaving victims with wrecked finances and years of stress. The threat is real, and you could be next. ExpressVPN is your shield against criminals. It locks down your devices, hiding your personal information and financial details from hackers, scammers, and anyone else looking to exploit you. So whether you're checking your bank, shopping, or just browsing, ExpressVPN makes you invisible to prying eyes trying to steal your money and your identity. ExpressVPN shields your data with military-grade AES 256 encryption. That's the same standard trusted by the US government to guard classified information. This is the highest level of online security you can get. So don't wait for disaster. Secure up to 14 devices at once and get powerful password protection. Real support is available 24/7 because cybercrime never sleeps. Save up to 73% on annual plans today. Every moment you hesitate is another moment you're exposed. Protect your money and protect your identity. Get ExpressVPN right now.
They never
Lucy,
wanted
I find that insane. I find that insane. Look, of course, let's be clear. You regret sending that tweet. You deleted it within 4 hours. Yes, you should have been punished in some aspects, but the consensus is, you know, from all political persuasions, you were dealt a harsh hand with your sentence, especially considering the context of losing your poor baby and your attitude towards the establishment and, you know, authorities in the UK. We get that. The tweet was wrong, fine. But the facts that you served as long as you did, you were refused leave on licence, as far as I remember, when other inmates who committed far worse crimes than you were allowed out to go and see family. Your daughter was struggling at school. Your husband was a bit poorly. All that in context. The facts that you then were released from prison, and the same government, the Labour government, then said, well, no, you can't travel to the US. We are ordering you to stay in the United Kingdom. We're not giving you permission. You're banned from travelling. You're staying in the UK. That, to me, seems pretty authoritarian. I mean, how did you feel? Does it feel like you're still being controlled by the state?
Oh, massively. You know, like, I have to go to probation every week. I'm a MAPA level 3. I don't know if you know what that means, but sex offenders and terrorists get put on MAPA level 3. It's another way of, so you're not just what's the word, like controlled and watched by probation. It's police. They have a police department, they have a press department, there's like a group. It stands for multi-agency public protection, basically. So you've got, I'm not just answerable to probation, I'm what they call a MAPA, which is insane given, but they use the excuse of, well, it's because of the press interest, you're high profile with the press, so I have to ask them permission to do everything. So if I want to go anywhere where there's more than 50 people, I have to seek probation's permission and get that signed off. If I want to attend like a conference, or so for example, I'm going tomorrow to Parliament to watch the debate that Rupert Lowe set up about not using prison as a punishment for people that post on social media, and I've had to seek permission to go to that and get it signed off by them. Like, everything I do is controlled by them, basically. So it's not a case of, oh, she only served 40% of her sentence. Don't be fooled into thinking that they make my life really easy now, because they don't.
Wow, I am absolutely astonished. So you're basically chucked in the same bag as sex offenders and, you know, some of the worst people in society, all because of that tweet. I mean, do you feel like you're still being made an example of, Lucy?
100%. There was, I'm not going to go into it, but there was an incident, and probation pulled me up about it this week, and I just sat there thinking, I don't know. And they were saying things like, well, you know, how much had you had to drink and all of this, that, and the other. And I was like, listen, this incident was nothing to do with me. Nothing to do with me. I wasn't the one in the wrong, you know, and somebody had gone to the press, which had gone through MAPA, etc., it got back to probation. It was something and nothing that was, again, made a big deal out of, because it's me. Oh, gosh, you know, Lucy Connolly. And, yeah, it's getting a bit wearing now, I'm not going to lie, but I just smile and nod and, you know, and go along with it, because what choice do I have?
Well, look, menacing Lucy Connolly with papier-mâché Christmas tree decor on your shelf and whatever else is there, picture frames, you know, goodness me. Lucy, can I ask you, please, when these conditions come to an end, when are you going to be literally a free person to do what you want again? Or have you been told when all this nonsense will finish?
March 27, because obviously that's when my 27 months are up.
Oh.
So this is so how it works is, if you get a sentence in the UK, you're told that you must serve a certain percentage of it, depending on what your offence is. So mine was 40%, so I served 40% in jail, and then the rest of the time, the remaining of those 27 months, I have to serve on licence and be answerable to probation with licence conditions, and, you know, yeah, and I'm currently visiting them every week.
Goodness me. Lucy, I want to play you one very quick clip and then I'll let you go. I know you've been very generous with your time at this late hour, so thank you for that. But this is our Prime Minister, our dear leader, I'm sure you're a big fan, Keir Starmer, talking about free speech to President Trump. Let's take a look.
Free speech today.
Well, free speech is very important. I don't know if you're referring to any place in particular. Perhaps they are, but
we've had free speech for a very, very long time here, so we're very proud about that.
All right, Lucy, do we have free speech in the United Kingdom? And latterly to that, what has this whole experience taught you, if anything? What life lessons have you learned since firing off that infamous tweet last year?
The answer to the first question is no, we don't have free speech. We have free speech as long as your political opinions and your political views align with the current government. If they don't, then, you know, they'll do something about that, throw you in prison, make an example of you, whatever they might be feeling like that day. No, we don't have free speech, because we either have free speech or we don't have free speech. You can't police free speech. How can you police free speech? I don't understand. It's not free then, is it? If there's consequences to that speech, it's not free speech. Regards to lessons, loads of lessons, and not all bad, you know, a lot of good. You know, obviously I was very hot-headed on social media. Lesson learned, you know, I won't be doing that again. Massive price to pay for you know, an emotional tweet. But I've been able to have an insight into a system, into a prison system, into a judicial system, that I would never have had that opportunity to before. And I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot about people, I've learned a lot about the system, and I've learned a lot about myself. And yes, it came at a massive price, but, you know, it wasn't all bad.
What have you learned about yourself, just finally?
Sorry, say that again, sorry.
Sorry to interject. What have you learned about yourself, just finally?
That I'm a lot stronger, that you know, that I can actually do anything. Yeah, you're not going to break me or my family, as much as these people try, as much as the government might want to break me, as much as I don't call them lefties anymore, I call them communists, want to see me and my family suffer. I'll never let them win. I'll stay, you know, I'll always fight back, and I will always stay strong, and you will never, ever keep me down for long.
Well, Lucy, thank you so much for your time this morning. I really appreciate it. And yeah, love to your husband, to your daughter. I hope she's getting on better now at school. Now you're back home, and yeah, good luck to you, and hopefully we'll catch up soon. You take care of yourself.
All right, thanks, Ben. Thank you.
Cheers, Lucy. gbnews.com/your say. Let us know what you think about that. And of course, the main story, the whole reason we got Lucy on, political asylum in the United States. Would you back Brits to go to the United States? Would it be betraying our country? We had a discussion there with Lucy about staying in the UK and fighting for what's good. You know, fighting to bring back the old times, to find our mojo again, to put ourselves up from our bootstraps. Joining me in Washington now is my panel, the US commentator and Democrat Party strategist Bob Weiner, and the Daily Mail's US political reporter Victoria Churchill. Good evening to you both.
Pleasure to be here.
You familiar with Lucy Connolly?
Well, I feel sorry for her. I don't care what she said. She had the right to say it. And she had the right to say it in a tweet and not to get crucified for it. But she better be careful before she comes to the United States and thinks she's getting free speech when you can't have protests on college campuses, when you can't protest against ICE slamming people on the ground, and when the President of the United States poops on 7 million people, and you've played that clip, and that's because of their free speech. So we have the same problem that you guys have with what we define, and it can't be what Lucy says, where it's only if the government says it's proper free speech. It's got to be anything.
Yeah, well, that pooping on people was just an AI meme that the President posted.
He reposted
that's not an attack on free speech. But in the more pertinent point you made, what was the first one you made?
That no matter what she said, she has the right to say it.
No, but the first example you gave of the no free speech in the US.
Protests on college campuses.
Right. Well,
that's very similar to what she did.
Is that not, Victoria, to do with anti-Semitism? Of course you can protest on college campuses.
You can, and I have absolutely no problem with people protesting as long as it doesn't turn violent. When people are, erecting structures, which it was on, for example, on the campus of Columbia, it was all about the tents. They were harassing Jewish students on their way to campus.
Yeah.
Since then, you've had protests.
Well, you don't condone that, do
for
you, Bob?
example, the protests in Los Angeles.
There are protests in Columbia. There are protests. They're shocked now at Berkeley. Really, this is news that there are. As a creature of the '60s, we had those. We surrounded recruiters' cars, and we were allowed to do it until they had 6 people killed at Kent State.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you, Bob. As a Brit, you see people like Lucy Connolly. Yes, her tweet was wrong. Yes, it wasn't good.
Right.
Nobody's condoning that. But she was given a 2.5-year prison sentence. And as she said, and I agree with her, if you have consequences to your freedom of speech, it's not freedom of speech. People like to say to me, Victoria, freedom of speech comes with freedom of consequences. It's like, well, no, that's not freedom of speech then, is it?
Well, I think there's 2 kinds of consequences. One that is actually legal, one that is more of a social consequence. I think you can have as many social consequences as you want, but I think that the problem is when the government intervenes. And there was a part in the exchange when you were talking about, does the UK have to kind of, I guess, touch the hot oven before they realize what exactly they're going to land on. Yeah. And I think if we look in the US, just over the past 5 years, you think COVID, one of our huge First Amendment protections is freedom of assembly as well as freedom of religion. People weren't able to go to church and exercise their First Amendment rights in those two of the 5 categories, which are their First Amendment rights. You've looked at, for example, recently, of course, the U.S. Senate, which I primarily cover in my role at the Daily Mail. Senator Chuck Grassley of the Judiciary Committee, he uncovered Operation Arctic Frost, which was the FBI spying on Republican lawmakers because of their association with President Trump. Yeah. So, this targeting of political opponents is unfortunately something that is not foreign to many, especially conservatives here in the U.S. I think we are, at least for now, in a better spot than Britain, and I would absolutely love to have Britons that believe in free speech and free expression come here in the US.
All right, thank you. Idris has said on your say, Ben, you have the resources to find out why Lucy Connolly was stopped from visiting the US. She said it came from the top. Find out for her and let the world know who is the person responsible. You can do this, and we need to know. I mean, who must it have been? David Lammy? Keir Starmer? It must have been somebody at the top echelons of the Labour government who responded to the United States administration here and said, no, Lucy Connolly isn't going. They're literally still, despite being free from prison, she is still, I argue, a political prisoner in the United Kingdom. And she will be, as she said, until March 27.